Unit 6, Participating in Government. Chapter 16, Political Parties. Our chapter objectives. For Section 1, looking at the development of parties, we will summarize the role of political parties in American politics. Under Section 2, Party Organization, we will describe the organization and function of American political parties. And under Section 3, Nominating Candidates, we will discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the four methods of nominating candidates. Section 1, the development of parties. In a one-party system, the party, in effect, is the government. Such one-party systems are usually found in authoritarian governments. In nations with a multi-party system, several political parties compete to control the government and must often form coalitions to do so. In the dozen nations with a two-party system, two major political parties dominate the government. Although many of the founders distrusted factions, by the end of President Washington's second term, two political parties had formed. The two-party system in the United States changed as political parties appeared and declined. On the eve of the Civil War, the Republican Party was born. After the war, it dominated the national scene, with the Democrats the minority party. During the Great Depression, the Democratic Party gained power and remained the majority party for most of the next 50 years. The Republican Party gained the presidency in 6 of the next 9 terms, starting in 1968, and in 1994 regained control of both houses of Congress. Third parties have been a part of the American political scene since the early years of the Republic. All third parties have one thing in common. They do not believe that the two majority parties are meeting certain national needs. In general, third parties fall into one of 3 categories: the single-issue party, the ideological party, and the splinter party. Occasionally, third parties influence the outcome of national elections by drawing enough votes to tip the balance to one of the major parties. Some examples where we've seen that. It was widely believed that H. Ross Perot, running as an independent back in 1992, helped Bill Clinton to win the presidency because he likely pulled votes that would have went to the Republican candidate George Herbert Walker Bush, who was running for re-election. We also saw the impact of Ralph Nader on the 2000 presidential election, that being a very close election where Al Gore actually received more popular votes but narrowly lost in the Electoral College to George W. Bush. Most believe that had Nader not been in the race, Gore would have been able to have pulled enough votes to have won enough other states to have won the majority in the Electoral College. Third parties' ideas were later adopted by the major parties, and often, or in many cases. But third parties face many obstacles. First, it's difficult for them to get on the ballot. They may get on the ballot in some states, but to win an election, it's really important that they can get on the ballot in all 50 states, and that's very hard to do as a third party. Plus, most voters support the major parties, and raising campaign funds is difficult, once again, largely because it is seen as being very difficult for third parties to win an election. It's very rare that, or it's hard for them to raise money because people don't want to give money to candidates who don't have much shot at winning. Section 2, Party Organization. Both Republicans and Democrats are organized into 50 state parties and thousands of local parties, as well as a national party. Voters may become members of a party when they register to vote, usually joining the party whose ideas and candidates in general they support. Party membership involves no duties or obligations beyond voting. However, some members contribute money or do volunteer work. The basic local unit of the party organization is the precinct, or voting district, and wards made up of several adjoining precincts. The county level is the one in which the party is the most united, and the county chairperson usually exercises a good deal of political power in the county. Yet counties are the weakest link in the party's organizational chain because they are largely run by volunteers. The state central committee is composed of members from the party's county organizations, and this is the most important part of the party in each state. Its main function is to help elect the party's candidates for state office. The National Convention and the National Committee are the two main parts of the party's national organization. The National Party chairperson, elected by the National Committee, manages the daily operations of the National Party. Both parties have independent campaign committees for Congress. Political parties recruit candidates to run for office. Both parties are candidate-oriented rather than issue-oriented. Political parties bring important issues to the attention of the public, publish the party's position on these issues, maintain websites, and help to form public opinion. Personal attacks against the other party's candidates sometimes obscure issues. Since many Americans are not well informed on issues, parties simplify the choices. Congress and state legislatures carry on their work on the basis of party affiliation. Political parties also dispense patronage, including jobs, contracts, and appointments to government positions. The party out of power assumes the role of watchdog over government. Because parties need to draw support from many different and sometimes conflicting groups, parties encourage compromise and adopt moderate policies with mass appeal. Section 3. Nominating candidates. How candidates are selected. In 19 states, party leaders hold caucuses to select candidates for public office. As party caucuses came under attack, the nominating convention to choose candidates became popular. The direct primary is the method most used by parties today to nominate candidates. Most states hold closed primaries in which only party members vote, but some states have open primaries in which any voter can participate. So what happens is that in a state with a closed primary, when that state holds their primary elections, you can only vote for candidates from your registered party, whatever they are. And the purpose of these elections is to narrow down the field to determine which candidates will then run in the general election. Let's say we're talking for president. The primary election narrows the field to help determine which candidate is selected to represent the party in the general election that takes place in the fall. The primaries are generally held in the spring. A person can file a petition signed by a specified number of voters to be placed on the ballot. However, the caucus or convention candidate of the major parties has an advantage because of party backing and resources. Presidential nominations. Every 4 years, each major party holds a nominating convention to choose candidates for president and vice president in the November general election. Before nominating conventions, congressional caucuses selected presidential candidates. Presidential primary elections operate under a wide variety of state and party rules in selecting candidates to run for office. Presidential nominations. Criticisms of presidential primaries include that the process extends over too long of a period, the primaries focus on the image of a candidate more than on the issues, and relatively few people vote in the primaries, thus the winner may not be as popular as the victory would indicate. Primaries often result in one-sided conventions that become rubber stamp operations. The National Convention. Each party's national committee chooses the site and the date of the convention and then decides how many votes each state will have. Many of the delegates who assemble at the convention are already pledged to a candidate, though some are not. On the evening of the opening day, an important party member gives the keynote address, a speech that is intended to unite the party for the upcoming campaign. In the next day or two, the delegates listen to committee reports and speeches about them. Each party's rules committee governs the way that the convention is run. Most delegates accept the rules committee's report, but sometimes bitter battles are fought by delegates who oppose decisions made by the rules committee. The credentials committee must approve the delegations from each state, and sometimes lively fights have occurred between rival delegations for a state's seats. A committee on permanent organization selects the permanent chair and other permanent officials for the convention. The Platform Committee is assigned with the important task of writing the party's platform, a statement of its principles, beliefs, and positions on vital issues. The highlight of the convention is the selection of the party's candidate for president. In recent years, frontrunners have had enough committed delegates that it was known that they would be the party's nominee and that they were selected on the first roll call ballot. The vice presidential nomination sometimes creates some suspense because the presidential candidate's choice, who is always selected by the delegates, is not known in advance, at least most of the time. The vice presidential nominee is usually chosen to balance the ticket with a person who has a personal, political, or geographic background that is different from the presidential candidates. The convention adjourns after the president and vice presidential candidates have delivered their acceptance speeches, which were intended to unify the party and appeal to the national television audience.